Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss the INTJ and money. I had a request in my comments to discuss this topic. I have to admit I struggled with doing this. In a way, it was like Luke Skywalker going into the dark cave to face his deepest fears. I think that deep inside myself, I have always known that avarice lurked, and from a young age I distanced myself from it. Way down there, I had this image of being wealthy, and another part of my mind was repulsed by that desire. It was never a fight on the surface. Whatever was going on happened deep inside me. On the surface, I chose to focus on supporting my family and doing good work for my wages. It has been like there was a money monster down there somewhere wanting to roar, but I wouldn't let it out. Money has a reputation. It has no morals. It has no ethics. It will work for anyone, and it can be stolen from anyone, and it doesn't care. It is like Aladdin's genie who will grant any wish to whomever is holding the lamp. And yet, it is far more than that. It is like a woman who appears beautiful and is happy to be with any man, but who is just as happy to leave him and move to another man. The love of gold goes back deep into our roots. I once went on a bus tour to Valencia, Spain, and at one point the tour guide took the group into a large room, and he pointed to the ceiling. I saw a surface over me that was gold in color and richly carved. The guide told us that what we were looking at was pure gold, and that the Spanish had brought it back from the New World during the Age of Conquest. The natives had loved the gold, but the Spanish conquistadors of that time decided they needed it more. Gold does that to people. And so can money. What is money? The American dollar is a piece of paper and nothing more. It has no definition, and it has no connection to anything in reality. It is an abstraction ever since President Richard Nixon cut it loose. It was suddenly free to float, as the term that was commonly used at the time indicated. What they didn't talk about is that it is also free to sink. Although there are forces at work trying to prop it up, the dollar theoretically could simply vanish into the same state as the old newspapers that you might toss in the incinerator. We like to assume that isn't going to happen, and hopefully we're right, but it still could happen because it is, after all, an abstraction and nothing more. It used to be defined by gold at $32 per ounce. Then it became a silver certificate. Then it became a magical piece of paper that we all agree means something. But, like our own future deaths, we just ignore that fact and go on with our lives as if it were not true. And I am going to do that for the rest of this video. Money is a way of taking your labor, your products, or your possessions, and converting them into a form that can be easily transported and then applied to something else, possibly completely unrelated. You might sell your car and buy new furniture for your house. You might sell your house and use part of the money to buy an RV and use the rest to travel on. Or you might dump your money into a casino or a racetrack. At its heart, a dollar is supposed to represent a dollar's worth of work from someone. If you work for an agreed amount of time, you are recompensed for your time and effort by receiving a dollar. And that ends the transaction. You have worked, and you have been paid, and everyone is considered to be square. It has come out even on the books. This arrangement becomes skewed, however, when you work to the point of exhaustion and perhaps injury for a few dollars, and a guy sits in an office never breaking a sweat and is paid more than what a dozen hard workers are paid. A lawyer can be paid millions of dollars to provide what the Constitution at least implies should be his client's right by law, justice. That is another issue. Why do you have to pay money to get justice? And even worse, why does spending a large amount of money bring you a better outcome in the so-called blind and fair courtroom? Money can make life sweet. It can bring you a home that is plush and lovely. A rich man has women flocking to him. A rich woman has all the things that her heart desires. Living on Easy Street is viewed as the ultimate lifestyle. But there is also a dark side to money. Many people who live on Easy Street find that drugs, unexpected tragedy, and even suicide can invade their lives, like Edgar Allan Poe's unwelcome Masque of the Red Death. The Marxists point to the uneven way money works as an injustice, and they claim, and I take everything they say with more than a grain of salt and a great deal of skepticism, that they want to level things out. Every time they get the chance to do their dirty work, they pull vibrant, productive societies down like lions slowly but surely taking down a water buffalo to the ground through suffocation. The water buffalo often stands for quite a long time, looking like he is okay, just like the socialist countries do. But in the end, they go under. Europe is cited as an example of how well socialism works. And yet every socialist country is on the verge of bankruptcy. It is the way that system always ends. I find the subject of money to be a mystery in certain ways. Everyone wants it, and yet no matter what they have, most people want more. There is an old country song where an old man states for the record that what every man wants is faster horses, older whiskey, younger women, and more money. However, no matter how much of any of these things a man has, it is like the Turkish delight that the White Witch fed to Edmund Pevensie in Narnia. You never have enough, and it leaves a burning desire for more. I feel that one area where my old avarice monster stirs is when I see what other people do to feed their own avarice. I watched with fascination some time ago where a guy's wife tried to hire a hitman to kill her husband. She did a really good job for the camera when she pretended to get the news that her husband was dead. But he wasn't dead, and her act was for nothing, as she ended up in prison. But what really fascinated me was her husband. This man was as devoid of conscience as his murder-minded wife. He called people on the phone and sold them what he called air, or nothing. He made huge amounts of money, lived like a king, wasted it mostly on drugs, it appears. But he got caught, and so he went to prison. He got out, and then he went through this murder attempt, and now is making millions on the phone again. But this time selling legitimate stuff, or so he says. People like this steal, often from old people who have no ability to think about what is going on. Other people rob, murder, sell their bodies for sex, and all for money. Money is like a monkey's paw, a magical talisman that grants your every wish, and for many of them, it will lower them down to the deepest depths of depravity in order to possess it. What is this thing with all this magical power? Well, aside from the magic, money is how we pay for things in our society. If you want electricity, you pay the power company. If you want a car, you pay for it with money. Food, shelter, braces for your kids, all come under the power of money. If I were going to make one recommendation to anyone about money, it would be to cut up all their credit cards, pay them off, and never get another one. I wrote a piece in my blog back in 2015 on this topic, and I pointed out that credit cards should come with a warning label, just like cigarettes. This card may be dangerous to your financial health. They are people flypaper or fishing lines. In fact, the fishing line analogy is pretty accurate because these thieving scoundrels send out bright shiny new cards in the mail to unsuspecting fish. Suddenly you can run right out and buy all those things you couldn't afford before. The thing is, if you can't afford them, you can't afford them. A credit card does not change that, at least for the better. It is not free money. The law, while not stopping this deplorable banking practice, has at least forced the banks now to put information on their statements for the people who are bad at math. I read one statement that said, for a $6,836 starting balance, by paying minimum payments, you would be stuck with this debt for 21 years. And at the end of the 21 years, you would have paid $14,456 in order to clear it. People don't realize that each month when they pay a minimum payment, they are just flushing money down the toilet. They are paying for the bank to have a big building, the manager to have a big house, a fancy car, and a fancy mistress, but it does nothing for you. The minimum payment to a credit card is mostly interest. In other words, it is money that goes into the sewer, not to pay for your debt. You pay, but you still owe almost as much as you did before you paid. And that is just one card. What if you have cards at all the local department stores, as well as several other kinds of cards? You are willingly putting chains upon yourself and selling your working self into slavery. Year after year, you work for no one besides the banks. By having you pay monthly payments, the banks muddy your vision so that you don't see the big picture of where that money is really going. And if you start accumulating these monthly payments, you find that you have no money left over for what really matters in your life. Every spare cent goes to the bank. And what if you get laid off? What if you get sick? Prior to this last election, for several consecutive presidential election cycles, the number one contributor to both political parties was Goldman Sachs. Both parties. Clearly that bank wanted to make sure no matter how the bread fell, a buttered side would be facing up. If you wonder why things like the highway robbery that goes on with credit cards is still legal, just follow the money trail. Now, as for investing money, it depends on what you're looking to accomplish. If you want security that will carry to the other side of a major economic collapse, you will need physical possession of something that is inherently valuable and which can be defended. Gold is often cited as a candidate for this. It has a history of holding its value through thick and thin. If you are looking to build a fortune through investment, you really need to do massive amounts of homework. There are many companies out there whose stocks are sitting very low today, but will skyrocket in the future. On the other hand, there are many of them who are going to go completely under. I would recommend investing only in what you know and know well. If you don't know it well now, then study and learn it well. Seriously, who is better at learning about something quickly than an INTJ? Study first and invest later. Never invest on a whim or the say-so of someone who might either be utterly wrong or who has a dog in the hunt and might be trying to rip you off. Whenever you invest your hard-earned money, make sure you know exactly what you're doing. Don't trust any authority but your own judgment. You do your own homework. This is the information age, and you can find out just about anything you want about any company and how it is doing and why. The time you invest, in the end, will be worth as much as the money you put into the venture. These are just my thoughts on money. I am no expert. I make no such claims. If I had my life to live over again, one area where I would take more care is in the area of money. Living on a fixed income today has shown me that I made some mistakes in the past. I have now spotted what they were and when they occurred. But, as with all things in the past, they can't be undone. So, my last piece of advice to you is to use your head, think about the future, and how what you are choosing to do right now will impact it. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'll see you next time.